Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Tonsoni. I'm coming to you live from my new podcast studio in the basement at Delphi, Indiana. I'm a teacher at Delphi High School, and we run a sports club called Delphi Bracketology. And what I'm doing this evening is just simply testing out some of the new equipment that I have received lately to help do some podcasting for education and to help also do some podcasting for our Delphi Bracketology Club, to see what we like to use in order to bring people together. So I'm trying this Google Hangout. I will be the only one here tonight. I'll only be here for a short time. We are eventually going to bring in students into our Google Hangouts. If this works out, other faculty members also join us. We had a meeting this morning and we assigned conferences to our 9 members, faculty and students, for them to start studying the teams, strength of schedule, top 50 wins, and all kinds of information that'll help us decide where to put teams into the bracket come middle of March. So if you follow us at Delphi Brackets, that's the Twitter page for Delphi Bracketology, you can get some updates on the brackets. We sent out a temporary bracket or a partial bracket on Monday. We say partial because it's very hard to judge where teams fit in currently. So you can get that on our Twitter page, and it's a lot more confusing than I ever thought. Let's explain a little bit about how we got started. We had some really good sports fans in my classes, and last February, March, we were talking NCAA basketball. So we decided to act as the committee last March, and we threw things together real quick. We got on Google, we searched like crazy for information on rules. We followed people on Twitter to see how they made decisions, and we had meetings, and we kind of put together a bracket, and a lot of fun. We graduated several students last year who were part of our club, and this year we recruited some new members, constantly looking for new members. And we undertook football bracketology, where we talked football and we did some filming and some video conferencing to discuss football. We even got offered to do a taped, delayed broadcast from a local restaurant. And we've had a lot of fun with that. And at the turn of the year, we are now putting our emphasis on NCAA men's basketball, watching basketball, talking basketball, and eventually putting a bracket together. So Monday, I threw together a quick bracket for our group to have, and we met last Thursday to discuss how to use Google spreadsheets, some information, the RPI information we can find on several websites, and we shared with our group several different places they can go and get information. We're also having a good time. My son Brent is also doing a bracketology project for his English class in something called Genius Hour, where they spend 1 hour a week working on a project of their choice. And I got an email today that Brent has seeded his teams 1 through 68, where they stand so far. So be looking for some more videos from us. I'm going to spend a little bit of time right now talking about the process that we go through and explaining a little bit of our bracket. So if you were to see our picture of our bracket, we have teams listed 1 through 16 in each region. We've also placed them in different regions. The winners of those regions will go to the Final Four. We've also placed teams in sub-regions, which is their first, second, and third round games, as the tournament calls them now. And so we are basically doing a few things with our Delphi Bracketology Club. If you win a conference, you automatically in the tournament. There are 32 automatic berths. I believe that's right. At one point, I thought there were 31, but I believe there's 32. At least I counted the conferences on ESPN standings page. There are 32. The winners of those tournaments get in. The Ivy League regular season winner gets the automatic bid. So there are 32 of 68 teams automatically in. Then the conference has to pick the next 36 best teams. There are all kinds of thoughts about how they do this. And so we've tried to simplify it for our bracketology group in this way. we look at the ranking RPI, which is not a perfect ranking, and especially not in mid-January with a lot of games and round robins and conferences playing out. But we use the RPI to just get an initial sort. And then we really focus our group on who do you beat and where do you beat them. Well, emphasis on top 25, top 50, top 100 wins. If you beat people, you move up in our scenario. We also look at bad losses only when there is a close tie between a couple teams. If they have a loss versus an RPI team over 100, we consider that a bad loss. So we look at that. We look at strength of schedule next. So a team with a really high strength of schedule, but a record of 11-6 might get our eye for potential selection. Once we have this ranking, we try to seed the teams, the 32 automatic qualifiers, the 36 next best teams, and we simply rank them in order 1 through 68. And we do comparison of the records and the strength of schedule and the RPI. I'm also using this year in my individual study the KenPom ratings. I think they're pretty good at kenpom.com. We also use warrennolan.com, and we follow several different people. And if you're interested in trying to follow along with us, Andy Bottoms of assemblycall.com is the best bracketologist. They actually have a bracket matrix where they grade out several of the bracketologists, 40 or 50 bracketologists, as how accurate their selections were as to seed and so forth. And Andy Bottoms from assemblycall.com has been the best overall over the last 3 or 4 years. And I follow other sources too. Go to Delphi Brackets for our Twitter page, and you can see who we follow. Some of the best from USA Today and Scout and some other places really help, as well as the famous ones, Jerry Palm on CBS and Joe Lunardi on ESPN. And you get a wide range of thoughts on how to best seed these teams 1 through 68, and then eventually how to bracket them into the bracket that we all see when we for entertainment purposes only, play bracket games at our schools or places of work. So if you look at our bracket, we have placed teams 1 through 16 in the 4 seeds, and we have put out a temporary bracket. The bracketing process is very confusing because of a lot of rules of who can play where. Teams can't play each other in the first round if they've played a game in the regular season. If you played a conference team 2 times, when can the earliest matchup be in the tournament? And so there are some processes there that are somewhat tough to understand, and you got to play through them to accurately place teams. And we're just in the early stages of that as a Delphi Bracketology club. Well, what you'll find out is that teams by now have kind of fit themselves into, you have the top 20 teams, and their seeds 1 through 5, and they're going to maybe fluctuate up or down a seed line or two unless of a run. You'll see a team move from a 5 seed up to a 2 seed if they go 6, 7, 8 games in a row and they beat the competition ahead of them. You'll see teams maybe fall a couple seed lines if they have a strong losing streak. But generally, the teams in the top 20 now will really have to do something not to participate, and then it's just a matter of seeding. And so our teams, the number 1 seeds are Kansas, Oklahoma, and then we also have Villanova and Michigan State. Those are our number 1s. Our number 2s, North Carolina, Kentucky, Miami of Florida, and our other number 2, if I can locate it here quickly, is Xavier. And so we think those teams are going to be in the 1 or 2. You might see some number 2s drop to number 3 and possibly even number 4 based on, there's 14, 15 games plus tournaments left. So, the thing I've learned, and I'll share with our group, which will hopefully watch this video, is you watch a game tonight, Michigan State plays Iowa, and one team's going to win. Does that other team drop automatically a seed line? And the answer is no. You have to compare it. And so really I look at the top 20 in comparison, and only will a win or a loss greatly move a team up or down a bracket if other teams are suffering losses or winning as well. And that moves the whole grouping. So you have a group that's 1 through 5 seeds that I kind of think are the top teams, and they're going to be in the tournament, and they're going to be generally in that 1 to 5. And then you have the 6, 7, 8, 9 group. Those are teams that should be in the tournament. They have some work to do. They cannot afford a lot of losses. They cannot afford too many losses, and they're going to need to get some nice wins to move up. But those teams are generally going to stay in the 6, 7, 8 range, 9 range with wins or losses. You will see a team at the 4 or 5, if they have a bad loss or a big loss, might drop down into the next grouping. A team at the 8 or 9 seed, if they have a bad loss, they may drop down into what I consider to be the next grouping of teams. So you have this 1 through 5 seeds. And then you have the 6 through 9 seeds. Those are the top 36 teams when you go. And again, what do we need? We need 36 at-large teams. What you'll find is the winner of the ACC is in that top 36. The winner of the Big Ten is in that top 36. And you'll have 6, 7 teams in that top mix. And so you're left over with what everyone hears on ESPN, CBS, is the bubble. And the bubble are those teams, maybe some 9 seed teams, some 10, 11, 12 seed at-large teams that with a loss could be knocked out. This is where one game can really maybe move people in and out, is when you are on the bubble. And those are the 10, 11, and 12 seeds. And so as I've studied this now for a year and hopefully getting a little bit better at it, teams generally stay in those 3 groupings. You might have a team jump into a group and another team drop out of a group based on a week's worth of play. For example, Arizona loses 2 games in the Pac-12. I think we had Arizona, if I can find them real quick on my iPad here, we had Arizona as a 3 Monday night. That was even with 2 losses. So maybe there's a better example that I can come up with. What do you do with Arizona that's lost 2 in a row? We still place them at a 3 because of who they beat. What do you do with the number 8 UCLA, who has 4 or 5 top 50 wins, but they have 3 conference losses already, including the loss to rival USC last night? I have them at an 8 as of Monday. They lose on Wednesday. Do they fall out of that in the tournament, middle grouping, that 6 through 9 grouping where I think they fit in? Do they fall onto the bubble? Do they fall off of the bubble with that loss? Texas is an 8 seed on Monday in our bracket, has a nice win against Iowa State. But I don't think they're going to move very much. That's at home. They should win. You have teams like Oregon State who have had a nice start, but they need to maintain it to stay at a 6. I can see them, falling down to a 7, 8, 9, but that's in that same grouping. But that's going to happen after 2 or 3 weeks. And I think Oregon State lost last night to Colorado. That doesn't mean they're automatically going to be a 7 next Monday. But it's in comparison to that grouping, that 6, 7, 8, 9. Does a Michigan, who was a 9, move up and take the place of a team that was higher because they lost? That's the grouping that you're comparing. For Michigan to get into a top 5 seed, they're going to have to beat Maryland. They're going to have to beat Michigan State. They're going to have to beat some top teams and do it consistently to really get the eye and really develop the resume. So that's been the interesting part of studying bracketology. And what we're trying to get our students to look at is how to group these students, how to analyze data, how to do some ranking, how to do some spreadsheet adjusting of teams. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to meet every Thursday. We're probably going to put out a bracket every Monday, meet Thursday to discuss various conference teams, and share with each other. Then we're going to, in March, start the bracketing process, and we will actually be doing what the committee does, and we'll be taking votes. And if teams get into 80% of our votes, then they're automatically in. And once they're in, then we'll start the seeding process as we go on. So it's been an interesting study. For those of us locally, Purdue, I think, is in the top tier. I think they're in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seed range. They're probably at a 5 seed right now with the tough loss at Illinois and a loss at home after a big lead to Iowa. But the reason they're not a 2 or a 3 is because they've had a rough go to start the Big Ten. You know, they defeat a Maryland, they defeat some teams that they very likely could and should. You might see them creep back up into a 4 or a 3. And they would have to lose some more, have some more bad losses to teams like Illinois, and not beat too many good teams to fall any lower than I think a 5, maybe a 6 seed. Indiana, on the other hand, hasn't beaten anyone. They have one top 50 win because Notre Dame just got into that today. But when I did the bracket, they had 0 top 50 wins, but they are 14-3, 15-3. Where do you put them? I think they're a 10 seed, and that is the team on the bubble where they have to keep winning, avoid bad losses, and they have to go get some decent wins to make sure that they can still make the tournament. And as we Indiana fans will discuss, is that good enough for Indiana basketball? Butler is a case. They've lost 3 Big East games already. I think they're a good team. I think they could be in the 1 through 5. But to me, their early Big East conference losses have dropped them out of one grouping, the top grouping, into the middle grouping. And I think they should fall 6, 7, 8, or 9. And in fact, we have Butler at the 8 as of Monday, playing Wake Forest. Wake Forest was a 9. Wake Forest gets beat in ACC play. Does that drop them out of the tournament? For me, no, unless there are some teams on the bubble that really have some good wins. Some interesting teams to look at, and then we'll wrap this first test session up. You have a team like Clemson who has beaten Louisville and Duke back-to-back, but their RPI and their schedule strength is really, really, really poor. You have an excellent Northwestern team, but they haven't beaten anyone. 0 top 100 wins, but they're sitting at 15-3 with 3 wins in the Big Ten. They have work to do before they can get on the bubble or into the tournament on the bubble. You have a team like LSU who has some outstanding talent. They're 11-6. They've won some nice games. Those are the teams that you have to kind of look at. A St. Mary's is high in the KenPom. They're a top 30 KenPom team, maybe top 20. I'd have to look at the statistics. Their schedule strength, have they beaten the top teams? And that's been the interesting thing, is also how does the NCAA tournament seed these teams? The AP poll and the coaches poll has really nothing to do with the criteria. And you get a situation last year where UCLA is in the tournament when everyone thought they were out. And when you really go back and look at the data, you see who are you beaten, strength of schedule, and did you avoid bad losses? And you really could see where you can make a case for UCLA last year. I think UCLA is going to have a tougher case this year if they keep losing games, although the Pac-12, you get stronger just playing each other. So strength of schedule does play a part in this, but it's who you beat and where you beat them. Good road wins are incredible resume builders, and it's just really way too early to tell at this point who's in and who's not in. But I think you can tell the groupings, the general groupings of where these teams are at currently. And at least that's what Delphi Bracketology is going to be like. If you have any questions of where your team's at or about the process, or if you would like to join in on a conference call of some sort and talk NCAA basketball, let me know. We're always looking for reporters locally or from afar to help our students understand sports and specifically NCAA basketball. And it's a passion for the teachers who are involved too. We love to talk sports with our students and build that relationship despite, not despite, maybe despite, but outside of the coursework that we are involved with our students with. So look next Monday for a new updated bracket from Delphi Bracketology. Follow us at Delphi Brackets. Follow me at Sony42 for other information. And if you have any suggestions about our videos, how we do things, we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.